let's jump to this, Rob, and somewhat NBA and somewhat NCAA, but the G League, is catching fire, Rob. It's catching fire. Now, of course, there's only so many spots. They've got this special select G League team. And now 3 of the top recruits from the 2020 class have decided, instead of going to college, that they're going to play for the G League. The latest, Deshaun Nix, who was going to go to UCLA, had already committed. He's decided to go to the G League. He's a 5-star point guard recruit. And Jalen Green and Isaiah Todd had previously said they were going to play for the G League. Nix is going to get about $300,000 a year, according to The Athletic. Green and Todd are going to be making around $500,000. So I like it.
How come he got shortchanged? How come he only gets
I don't know.
That doesn't even sound right to me. Seriously,
Well, that's what's being reported. Maybe it's wrong, but that's what's being reported.
Does that sound right to you? Why are they getting $500,000? We're all in the same boat.
Maybe they're going by rankings.
Yeah,
maybe they're
by whose rankings? Michael Jordan was the 3rd pick. That would be my
right.
my claim.
They do have rankings. I get it, but it's just like, look, the draft. The first pick gets a certain amount, the second pick gets another amount, third pick a little bit less. So I don't know to answer your question, but maybe that's it. But you're right, it is a little bit strange that it wouldn't just be one amount across the board. But regardless,
one thing you did see is that 125 that everybody poo-pooed, because they were getting nobody for 125.
Right.
And now look how that's changed, because they know they got to pay.
No question. Well, because these leagues outside of the United States were paying big money. And so I think they made the right move. I think it's good. But somebody who doesn't like it is John Calipari, the celebrated coach from the University of Kentucky, also coached Memphis. He's not? He's not celebrated?
He's won one championship with all that talent.
Is he celebrated or not?
Not by me, but by a lot of people.
Okay. He is celebrated.
I think
just like Jim Boeheim is celebrated.
Jim Boeheim, a flop.
That's fine.
John Calipari is a bigger flop. I think he's been the most over-glorified guy with one championship and all the talent that he's had, Chris. And he's not, you know what? He's a hell of a recruiter. I don't know how he does it, but he's a hell of a recruiter. When it comes to coaching and other stuff, maybe there's some other issues there. But I'm not a Calipari guy at all. I don't get it. You could have players of that magnitude and all together. One time I remember one of those teams, Kentucky, had like 10 guys who could have been starters. The first 10 guys, Chris, could have been starters on any team in the country. And that was when I believe when they went 38-0 and lost before losing to Wisconsin, I think, in the Final Four. Am I right? They had an unbelievable roster.
That was Karl Anthony Towns' team, I believe. But anyway, I'm not in disagreement with you there. I just say he is celebrated, which I would definitely defend that. Whether you think he's great or deserving of it, he's celebrated, just like Jim Boeheim and some of these other big-name college coaches, Roy Williams and all that.
Another one, fraud. Go ahead.
Anyway, I don't disagree with you, though, on Cal. I don't think he's a fraud and all that. I mean, but his strength is recruiting. He is a great recruiter. He's hooked up with Worldwide West and they get the players. But I agree, his in-game coaching leaves something to be desired. And that is why he doesn't have more championships, because he's had great talent. The one where I think Calipari's even admitted this, that he blew it in Memphis when Derrick Rose was there his freshman year, and they were up by 3 and didn't foul Kansas in the last seconds. Right. Instead, they let Mario Chalmers put up a 3, and he hits it, and then Kansas goes on to win. So I'm not in disagreement with you on that. But anyway, Cal doesn't like this new rule. Rob G, read the quote. He was in a story in USA Today. Tell him what. Well, it actually is off of his.
Yeah, it was pulled from his Facebook show called Coffee with Cal, and it was with Charles Barkley. They're having a bigger conversation about the G League, and the crux of his argument was, if these athletes stop preparing for college early because they think they're going to go to the G League, by the time they realize they can't qualify to get into the G League and get one of these big contracts, it's going to be too late for them academically to get into college. So here's the quote. My issue with the G League trying to entice players by giving them more money is not the kids that you're getting. It's the thousands of 9th and 10th graders that think that's how they're going to make it when you know, and I know, it's only going to be about 2%. We're not talking 50 guys. It'll be thousands and thousands and thousands, end quote.
And you know what, Cal? If they do that, put all their eggs in the basket and they don't make it, guess what they have to do? They have to do what everybody else does. Go out and get a job. I mean, go finish your school and go get a job. I mean, I don't know how you can we already know what the numbers are. There are only 400 jobs in the NBA. You think 100 open up every year, Chris?
You're absolutely right. Here's the thing, Rob.
You can't police
this
that.
Ain't new.
Right.
Stop it, Cal. There's been kids putting their eggs in this basket, and it's not right. And neither one of us, I know you.
Neither
agree
one of
with
us,
me,
right?
We don't advocate it, but to act like all of a sudden, kids who aren't good enough to make the NBA are gonna start thinking they can get there because there's 5, 7 spots, 12 spots, whatever it is on the G League team. Because I don't even know. It might be 5 spots. I don't know how many because you're gonna have veterans on that team too. So it's not just going to be the 12 best high school players.
No. But we've seen other players, get out of college early, don't get drafted. They don't even get drafted. They're not good enough.
And Cal has long said that players, if they, want to go to the NBA directly out of high school, if they're good enough, he thinks they should be able to go. Now, he thinks if they're not drafted or something, they can go back to school, but
I agree with that.
I do too. He advocates high school to college. Okay? I'm sorry, high school to the NBA.
And you know why, Chris?
So don't tell me.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, there are tons of kids who actually are really good in high school and who think they're going to make the NBA and don't get drafted. They're putting their eggs in one basket. And shame on the school and the parents if they don't hold the kid accountable throughout his high school career.
And if you're not good enough, then you know what happens? Like I said, you got to go get a job like everybody else. But, Chris, my point with the high school to the NBA, basketball, for whatever reason, and maybe the only sports where you suppress a prodigy. If LeBron is good enough and somebody wants to draft him, like Kobe or whatever, that's fine. But it doesn't mean that there's prodigies everywhere. But, right. Chris, we should never, if there was an eight-year-old could play the piano, concert pianist, and they wanted to play at Carnegie Hall and they were 8 years old, would they stop her or him? No, they would not.
I mean, we talked about Michael Jackson last week.
Yes.
He was a superstar at 7, 8 years old.
7, 8 years old, leading the group, the Jackson 5. Go look.
Yep. Gymnasts, actors, actresses.
I've never been in favor of stopping a prodigy. Everybody's not the same. And you should always allow people who are extraordinary to continue to excel. And that's why they skip people in school, Chris, right? When the kids are too smart. Right. You're not going to hold a kid back who's smarter than the whole class. He won't learn anything. What do? You push him forward.
The answer is simple because, look, in the past, and because of the rules of the past, rightly so, there was some legitimate concern about, okay, if this kid, declares for the NBA draft out of high school and doesn't get drafted, or say he gets drafted in the second round and his contract's not guaranteed, maybe he can't go play in college, he's been done a disservice. The easy answer is let the kids play in college. If they don't get drafted or they get drafted without a guaranteed contract, let them go play in college. Let them keep their eligibility.
That was college doing like punishing them, Chris.
Right, because they wanted the kids for themselves.
We dare you to go to the NBA, and if you don't make it, you can't come back here.
Right.
That defeats education. Of course they should. If they aren't drafted in the pros, why can't they go back to college? I never understood it. Never.
And the most important thing and what should rule the day is fairness. And you're absolutely right. If an 18-year-old kid out of high school, 17, whatever he is good enough to play in the NBA, then what's fair is to let him play. I don't think I'm not going back on it because this shouldn't be the deciding factor, but I don't think it's great for basketball because I think kids learn more, they're not ready other than LeBron. He's the only player ever who's come directly out of high school and done damage right away. Kevin Garnett was the second who averaged like 10 points as a rookie. LeBron was the only one to come in and kill the league, averaging 20 points right out of high school. But I think it's kids come into the league better, having had some college, not necessarily 1 year of college, but when Jordan and those guys came in after 3 years, they were better players. But that shouldn't rule the day. But, I think I'm just saying that's a factor.
And maybe Cal is afraid of being exposed, that maybe he ain't the greatest recruiter out there, and we know he's not the greatest basketball coach. So now you're taking even some more of the best talent away, and you're paying those kids, and now he's got a problem with it. You shouldn't have a problem with it. Kids who want to go to college, first of all, I wouldn't want any kids who don't want to go to college anyway, Chris, because seriously, you should want to go to college. If you want to go to the school, wear that uniform, play at that arena in front of your student body, you shouldn't force people to go anywhere and do anything.
But hold on. I hear what you're saying, but if the rules were such that a kid didn't have other options, like he couldn't go to the NBA, I really don't want to go to college, but hey, I'm a top player in the country. My dream is to play in the NBA. I'm going to go here for a year and bide my time. You wouldn't want that kid?
I'm just saying it's a farce for kids who
don't
really go to school.
You're just saying the rules in general.
Yes, because you're making people go to school who have no interest.
They're not. A lot of them aren't students.
Are they making a mockery of it? That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
And as soon as they get through basketball season,
right. Most of them aren't even going to class in the second semester.
That's what I'm saying. After the basketball season's over, they're done. I'm just here for that. I didn't come here for school. That's what I mean.
And I do think Cal, like I said, I'm not as hard on him as you are, but his strength is recruiting. And there's no
is it
coach.
His strength or Worldwide West strength?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay. His relationship with West. But I hear you. But there's no coach in America that would be more hurt by this G League, taking the top players than Cal.
That's why he's
no other coach, because he has mastered the one and done thing, right? And so he's going to lose those top players. I mean, he's turned it into a little cottage industry, right? You got all the NBA players coming to my practice, or not players, coaches. Remember that?
Yeah.
He's got coaches and scouts coming to practice to watch the kids practice. Come on. He's eating that up. And so that would be done. And now, like you said, he's really got to coach some kids that, are good, but maybe no better than the next man's team. And then we'll get to see what he can really do.
Well, there you go. There's the exposure part, and it'll be interesting to see. But I think it's silly for him to bellyache about it. They've been making money off of these kids for so long. I don't blame a kid. I would never do it, Chris, for $125, and I said it when it came out. To me, once you get taxes and pay your agent, that's not a lot of money. It's just not for basketball and what they make off of you. I don't mean in general life. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what I mean. I don't want to get people to think I'm saying poo-pooing $125,000.
But here's the thing, though. In real talk, though,
$500 changes your life.
I'm much happier for them. However, for some families, depending on the background, some of these families getting that $80,000 or whatever you might get, $75,000 of that $125, that's huge for them. That can be huge for a family. And if they're thinking, hey, we can get this money for 1 year, and then he goes to the NBA and now he gets a real contract for 4 years, so I think it depends. It's all relative, but I agree. I'm glad they're getting more money, and they should be.
Yeah, it should be more. And you see, people weren't flocking there when it was 125. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying is that number didn't sound right when you talk about the league and the amount of money that people are making. 125 just didn't feel right, and 500 feels right, and that's worth doing what they're doing. So I don't blame them.
Is John Calipari really have these high school kids' best interest at heart? Or is he mad that the gravy train could be slowing down a great amount because
that sounds
of the
more
G
like
League?
it, the latter. All right, Harry in Columbus, Ohio. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What you got, Harry?
Hey, hopefully everyone's family is doing well, everyone's safe.
Hanging
Yes,
in.
thank you, man. We appreciate that.
All right, so I agree with you, Rob. Well, both of you. He's just a gravy train. I mean, if you think about the players that he's had, we can go back. Jamal Murray, he won 7th. He had Karl Anthony Towns first, Willie Cauley-Stein, Trey Lyles, Devin Booker, all these guys who were lottery picks.
John Wall, Derrick Rose.
Right.
On
It's
and on.
ridiculous.
DeMarcus Cousins.
Yep.
He's had all these guys.
Anthony
so
Davis.
now it's like, think about how many top 5, let's not even go lottery, but top 5 picks he's had. He doesn't get those guys anymore. And he doesn't, like Ross said, doesn't even win with them. Like, he literally doesn't even win with them.
He doesn't
and
even
now those
win.
guys that are top 5 picks, they're like, well, what do I need to go to Kentucky for? I can just go ahead, because Calipari's not a very good coach. He's winning on talent alone. Like you're talking about when you have, a team with, just like Anthony Davis's team, when you have a team with, multiple top 5 guys, like, come on, man. Like he's just, this is a crook. His trade gravy chin. You know that now that he won't get the top guys, he actually has the coach and he'll lose.
Here's what I'll give
doubt
Kyle.
about it, Harry.
Again,
Thanks for the call.
Again, whether it's him, Worldwide West, whoever, great recruiter. And secondly, I'll give him this. For him to get these blue chip players to come into his school and for 1 year when they know they're going directly to the NBA, to get them to be on the same page and sacrifice individual numbers. Because they go there and average. Karl Anthony Towns, I think, averaged 10 points at Kentucky. Anthony Davis averaged about 10 points. For them to sacrifice their numbers, I give him credit for that. He gets through to them for the good of the team. Let's play together, blah, blah, blah. But my problem with him is the in-game coaching. And that's where he comes up short.
And if you're going to do that and make the sacrifice, you should win a trophy. You know what I mean? Like,
no, right.
I'll
I mean,
sacrifice.
they have great teams. They get close, but they haven't. And look, it's a one and done. Obviously, it's tougher than if they're a series. But I'm just saying that is impressive that he can get these kids to make that type of sacrifice when they can go somewhere else and average 22 points a game. You know what I mean?
But he just said it when you have the roster of players and where they've been drafted. Because players ultimately want to play somewhere where the coach can get them into the league.
NBA.
That's really what it comes down to. I remember, how come I can't remember his name, from Brooklyn, who went to play with Rick Pitino in Kentucky. From New York. Come on, Chris.
Kentucky.
Yeah, he played at Kentucky.
He played for Pitino.
Jamal Mashburn.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know why Jamal Mashburn went to Kentucky? Not to play at Kentucky.
Right. I'm sure to get
that
to the
didn't mean
NBA.
anything. He said, wait a minute. Weren't you the coach of the Knicks? That's how he got him. He said, you coached the Knicks, didn't you? Okay, you can get me to the NBA. And that's why he played for Rick Pitino.
Right.
All
and
right.
that's what Calipari sells them on.
No, I bet. And that's what I would sell kids on, too. Nick in New York, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio.
Hey, Rob, God bless you. I was waiting for Chris to say it, but I realized he wasn't going to, so God bless
Thank you.
You're welcome.
God bless you, Rob.
You guys, I know you both have a tough couple of weeks, so I want you to know that we're all with you all through that. The one
Thank you,
thing,
man.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks, seriously.
No problem. The one big word through all this is exposure. I've never watched a G League game, even with no sports on right now. I'm not tuning into a G League game. I think the biggest guy that's ever come out of the G League so far is that 42-year-old guy that played for the Lakers. So I feel like if you go to these schools you play for 1 year, you're on ESPN, you're on, the end of February, March when football's ended. That's the only sport on. So that's where you make your name. Even if you're not the top player, if you're getting fed the ball like Cam Reddish, I don't think he was that great. I mean, he is a good player, but I think him going to Duke, playing prime time that he was, I think that's why he went that high. I don't think going to the G League. I don't think that's beneficial or financially beneficial.
Well,
let me ask you.
$500,000 to somebody who doesn't have any money is beneficial.
And more than that, remember, let me ask you this, because keep him on the line. I want to ask him a question. First of all, these kids, the kids that are going to the G League, it's only going to be a handful of them because they're going to have veterans on the team too. So I don't know, 5, 7 kids, whatever it is. The NBA already knows them. Like, they're not hurting their draft stock at all. LaMelo Ball is in Australia this year. He might go number 1. James Wiseman didn't play but 3 games for Memphis. He might go number 1. So you don't need to go to college as much anymore to get the exposure because they know about you from high school. I hope he's still on. I want to ask you this. If this G League select team, okay, because that's what it is, and they got, say, 5 of the top, high school players in the country or, just out of high school, and they're all projected to be lottery picks, and they're playing with a team of veteran G Leaguers, and they're playing, say, the Serbian national team on television, you're not interested in watching that?
If they're playing another country, I am very interested because I want obviously I want America to win. So that's enough.
Because that's what they're going to do.
But they're not playing all those games against international, and I agree with Nick
some
from
of them,
the
they're not going to be a typical G League team, though. They're only going to play maybe a dozen G League games, and then they're going to play a bunch of different countries and exhibitions and things like that.
I know I wouldn't watch G League games unless it was an international flavor, somebody worth watching. I just wouldn't be interested. I could watch the highlights, but I wouldn't watch the game.
Yeah, nobody watches minor league sports, regardless of the sport. That's why these football leagues, to your point, always, Rob, have failed.
Yeah, because
nobody
People
watches minor league baseball.
Leagues.
I agree. Nobody's gonna watch the G League, but like I said, the kids are touted already. They're playing these international teams at least occasionally. People are going to watch that.
Right.
All right, we're going to bring in our man. Yeah, our man. He's an NBA champion, 3-point sharp shooter, Eddie House. What's up, brother? How are you?
What's going on, guys? How y'all doing, man?
We are great,
all right, man.
We are great. So let's start right here with the G League. You see now they're paying these kids on the select team like $500,000, $300,000 to play on the G League select team. John Calipari is worried about that impacting the kids, in his words, the kids that aren't good enough to be on that select team. He thinks it could hurt them because they'll be pointing toward that in the NBA. And then when they don't make it, they may not go to college or play in college. What are your thoughts on this? We think Calipari is being self-serving because he's going to lose some of his recruits.
I was getting ready to say that, too. He's saying that because that's basically what his university does is the G League without him getting paid. So,
right.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you got a chance to come out of high school and make some money and still have the opportunity to go back to college if it don't work out, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I think it's a great thing for the NBA to do because some of these kids don't even need the 1 year in college. They don't need to go to college at all because they are that good. And not saying that that's the case for everybody and it's going to work out for everybody. You're going to have your samples or examples, I should say, where it didn't work out for somebody, but they have the chance to go back to college and fulfill their dreams of playing at least college basketball if the league doesn't work out. But I think it's a good thing, man. I actually think it's a real positive thing. And go get your money, man. I mean, they make so much money off of you, your likeness, and everything in NCAA. So you got a chance to go get some paper, man. Go get it.
No doubt about it. I'm not asking you to rip John Calipari, but when you look at all the players he's had and only one championship, what's the disconnect? I know they don't stay long. It's one and done. Maybe you can't get the team together, but it just seems like to me he hasn't been able to coach his way through all that talent to win. John Calipari should have way more than one championship after all these years.
Well, you could say that. I understand where you're coming from with that as far as, like, he has so much talent you should win, but talent doesn't always translate to wins. It doesn't always mean because you have the best talent, you have the best team. Sometimes that talent just doesn't mesh the right way. Those egos, the style of play just doesn't match. And, I mean, any coach, it's hard for you to just get a group right away unless they're, I think, just extremely mature or they're professionals. If they're young kids coming in, there's going to be some give and take, some pull, some learning curves. Your system might be different from what they've been used to in high school, and they got to get acclimated to that. And while trying to find their self, they also got to make sure that they're doing the right thing for the team. So I think it's a lot tougher job than what people tend to just to think about what Calipari is doing. When you have all these talented players coming in, in the NBA, a lot of time you got to give them success to be able to check some of those egos because all these guys are eyeing the NBA, and a lot of them buy into the team ball. You don't really see too many guys that's just dominating on shots and stuff like that. They move the ball and play the game pretty much the right way.
Eddie, we've heard people over the years, oh, if Michael Jordan was playing today, he'd average 50. And I just dismiss that stuff as nonsense. But I got to be honest. Looking at Jordan, the punishment he took driving to the basket compared to
terrible.
what you get today, which is nothing. Looking at how the floor is spread, considering that Jordan would shoot, just like everybody if they played today, would shoot the three better. I'm not saying he'd be a great three-point shooter. He'd be a good one, though, an above average one if he practiced it more today like all the players. I got to be honest, Eddie. I think Michael Jordan playing today would average 40 points a game. Is that crazy?
No, that's not crazy at all. That's right on par with what you should be thinking and what everybody else is thinking. I mean, like you said, all the punishment he was able to endure but still put up the numbers he was putting up. And people seem to forget, it seemed like every night he was playing against a Hall of Famer, especially when he was going against those teams in the playoffs. You look at Detroit, they have multiple Hall of Famers on that team. You look at the Boston team that will beat him up, they have multiple Hall of Famers on the team. So to dismiss and think that he wouldn't be able to dominate when you could do pretty much whatever you want to do when a guy came into the paint. I mean, you could literally take his head off and it would be just a common foul. So you got to think that he would have been able to utilize not only the space because of the shooting, and he would have improved his three-point shot because he would have worked on it because it's part of the game. But just getting to the free throw line, I mean, he would have lived at the free throw line. People get sick of seeing James Harden on the free throw line. Well, you really would have got tired of seeing Michael Jordan on the line.
Speaking of Michael Jordan, Rod Thornton came out today and said that Jordan had nothing to do with Isaiah not making the dream team, but he couldn't give you a reason why Isaiah didn't make that team, despite probably being the third or fourth best player in the league at that time. This is a guy who beat Jordan, who beat Magic, and beat Bird all in their primes, and he didn't make that team. What do you make of that? I mean, Chris and I can't believe that anybody could have stopped Isaiah from being on that team other than Michael Jordan. Does that make sense to you or not?
Well, yeah, that's what everybody, all the murmurs and the mums and all the quiet talk, that you hear throughout the league, throughout the history of the league, is that was the main reason why Isaiah didn't. It had anything to do with his ability to play. It had everything to do with the ability that Michael Jordan did not like him, man. From what I've heard over the years is the fact that Mike basically said, hey, if he doesn't, and I don't quote me on this, I'm just saying this is what I heard.
Right. We know that.
That people were saying that Mike was like, hey, if you get him here, I'm not coming. And I'm quite sure you guys heard that same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, I mean, you got to think that that was an easy decision for somebody. Say, okay, so you telling me I can't have that you ain't gonna come if he don't? Okay, well, you on the team. We're gonna leave him off.
Right. And you know what, Eddie? Let me just say one more follow-up, Chris. I'm sorry. Eddie, the other one was Jordan's reaction when they gave him the video, the phone to show what Isaiah said. He was so angry. Here we are 25, 30 years later. So you can still see he has venom for Isaiah, no?
No, he doesn't like him. You could tell he does not like him. I think it goes deeper than just the handshake. I think it went from the fact of how they treated him on the court. They say, because a lot of those shots weren't basketball plays. And I think, and I understand where Mike is coming from. Hey, man, if you making a play on the ball, you foul me hard, you try to take a charge, and I fall down hard, or you just give me a good hard foul to keep me from laying it up, cool. But when you start trying to take my head off and going at my head with elbows, I mean, they showed the one play where Horace Grant was coming down on the trap, and James Edwards gave the deliberately elbow to the rib cage, and that's the way that the Pistons played, not only the Bulls but everybody else. And I think Jordan, as a basketball purist, coming from North Carolina, coached under Dean Smith, I think that is where you kind of step over the line from being a hard-nosed, physical basketball team to a dirty basketball team.
Eddie House, great stuff as always, brother. We appreciate the knowledge.
As always, honest and right to the point, man. Keep doing it that way. That's why you're on The Odd Couple. We
appreciate it, brother. Y'all keep doing your thing.
All right, bro. Thank you. That's our man, Eddie House.
He ain't gonna give you no milk toast.
Right.